But yeah, it's a marvelous gun. Like at 50 yards, I will put and have on multiple occasions, these will touch each other. There's a lot of, I would say, myths surrounding their use and to like what level of a pain in the butt it is. I did not find it to be dissuasive.
What is up, everybody? Mark on the mic across from... It's a Monday. It's a Monday. Across from me, my good friend, Mr. Ryan Muckenhirn. Ryan, you rocking a fresh cut today?
No.
Okay. Well, looks good. Looking good today. Not too long ago, we were brainstorming about topics, things we want to talk about. And you said, well, why don't we talk about, one of my traditional muzzleloaders?
Sure.
We'll do a bit of a gun highlight or muzzleloader highlight. And I said, perfect, because we did a podcast a while back on muzzleloaders where we, not intentionally, but we kind of left out traditional muzzleloaders, and we got a few comments, hey, those aren't muzzleloaders. And
there's a flintlock guy in the comments already.
He's saying that even this isn't, you mean?
1,000%.
Oh,
absolutely.
Gotcha.
He's mad.
Well, maybe we'll do those at some point as well. But
you're going to have to find somebody else who thinks those are neat, because that ain't me.
I mean, even the most modern, advanced, like I've got my CVA, it's incredibly accurate, all the things. At the end of the day, personally, no, I know they're not this, and I know they're not a flintlock, but they are still a muzzleloader. And they come, I don't know, man. Sometimes I think it's just hard enough. And then you dial it back to something like this or a flintlock, and boy, here you go.
We can touch on that a little bit.
Tell me about this one in particular. What is it? When did you procure it? Why did you procure it? And we'll go from there.
Okay. This particular example of firearm that you're seeing in front of you is made by the Pedersoli Arms Corporation out of Italy. This particular example is called the Rocky Mountain Hawkin. And kind of a fun story on how I came into this gun. I had wanted a Hawken rifle, as true to the Sam and Jake pattern as I could get.
What is the Sam and Jake pattern?
Samuel and Jacob Hawken.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Gotcha.
Gun makers out of St. Louis. They built the very famous Hawken rifle, which was a pattern of rifle percussion. There was some flinters, actually, that mid-1860s that kind of kicked off. And so, like, St. Louis was a major hub for folks dispersing west. And the Hawken rifle came into favor for many, many westward traveling hunters and trappers and mountain men.
Do you know what it was that people were drawn to, or that it worked better than other versions, that they're like, yeah, this is what a person wants?
Form factor, caliber, and power.
Okay.
So 54 caliber gun, and there were other Hawkins produced in smaller and larger bores. Big barrels, heavy octagonal barrels. This very traditional half stock instead of a full stock. And
okay.
It's funny I say very traditional half stock, because that was then not traditional.
Sure, it would go essentially the length of the barrel, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
You'd have more of a musket profile. So that half stock is a good identifier. And then there's a lot of debate over like what the trigger guards look like, and there's been a lot of different Hawken contemporaries produced over the years. TC made some, CVA, Connecticut Valley Arms made some.
Back in the day, you've seen it. I bought it in my Cabela's days. I have the Cabela's Sporterized Hawken, that little shorty.
They usually had a trigger guard of some kind that had like tang metal on it that provided somewhat of a pistol grip on an otherwise kind of straight stock. So if we were looking at, late 1700s, early 1800s muskets and similar rifles at the time, a lot of times they just had simply straight stock. The iron on the bottom here was often shaped to give a little bit more purchase. But all of these things go into kind of defining the Hawken pattern. Now, also bear in mind, there was some standardization to this, but it was also somewhat loose. So Hawkens could be built per the customer request from the Hawken shop. So if you wanted, a different barrel length or a different caliber, or if you wanted a different style of stock, this happens to be a rifle butt plate on there. If you wanted a shotgun butt plate, it was rumored that they would do that. You could get, any number of accoutrement done to it, or different sights, what have you. So they were building them. It was neat. Like they were built there.
That is pretty cool. This one's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. It's a fun story though.
Oh yeah.
So I set out looking for as authentic a Hawken as I could find. Because buying if you can even find a real Hawken from the period, if it isn't in a state of utter disrepair and complete disregard, you're going to spend unbelievable amounts of money.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So I started looking for builders, of which there are quite a few in the U.S. And I started reading some forums, and I started going on Facebook groups and seeing who they were talking about. And I landed on this builder named W.B. Selb, and he builds himself some beautiful rifles in a lot of different editions. And he does a very good job of kind of replicating what Sam and Jake Hawken were doing from a pattern perspective. And I don't want to say again that there's a fence around what a Hawken rifle was.
Yeah, like this isn't, or this is, and this isn't.
Yeah, like there's an M1 Garand, and there's like maybe 2 variants of it that are real. And that's pretty structured. We know what we're getting into with that. With the Hawken, it's a bit more loose, right? And that wasn't uncommon for that time. So I'm looking at these guns. They're also very expensive, but they're beautiful. I mean, they're extraordinarily well done. And I call him, and we get talking. He's like, "What do you want to do with it?" I said, "I want to hunt it."
That's what was going to be one of my questions to you is, why did you want one of these things in the first place?
They're neat. I got on that black powder cartridge rifle kick, which I'm still on. I'm just waiting for the right tag so that I can use it. So I've killed a mule deer, a pronghorn, and western whitetail with an 1885 high wall, 4570, iron sights, the whole thing. And I thought, okay, what's the next thing? And I really got kind of a hair growing somewhere to hunt with a Hawken. And I wanted to hunt specifically western game. And pronghorn was my first idea because it's often a tag I can get. So I said, I want to hunt it. He's like, "Kid, how old are you?" And at the time, I think I was like maybe 27.
Oh, just a young'un.
26, 27. And he's like, I'll tell you this. He's like, "But you can hunt my guns, but they're like expensive." And he's like, "There's some other really good guns out there." And he wasn't dissuasive. Like he would have sold me the gun, He's like, "But, maybe get your toes wet." He goes, "Look at one of these Pedersoli Rocky Mountain hunters." He's like, "They are a very, very faithful replica. And they, from all reports, shoot like $1 million."
Well, and looking at it, I can't imagine this actually isn't exactly what you wanted.
There's some things about it that I wish were a little different, but it plays the part very nicely.
The wood appears to be exquisite.
Lovely. The guys over at Pedersoli did me a rock solid.
Yeah.
When I ordered this one.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, they did a good job. Nice piece of maple on there. So anyway, I start researching this gun. I come across a YouTube channel called Cap and Ball TV.
Okay.
Which is run by a guy named Balázs Nemeth from Hungary. And for those listening, if you want to see one of the coolest channels on the entirety of the internet, now also understand that my study of YouTube is very limited. But Cap and Ball TV and what Balázs has got going on over there is something else. There's a whole backstory behind him and his involvement with the firearms industry, with the Hungarian government, with the allowances of hunting with black powder in Hungary, loading cartridges in Hungary. The guy is a pioneer and a revolutionary. And his hunting videos.
I'm going to check this out.
Oh, man. His hunting videos are unbelievable. He's an artist. And
oh, my gosh.
Like, I can't get over how good it is. That, and I became immediately fascinated by it. My grandmother was born in Hungary. And so she died in think 2021, but I'd always wanted to go to Hungary, and I was like, what am I going to do there? Well, I'm going to hunt. And Balazs Nemeth showed me that that's a really cool thing to do over there. Anyhow, it just so happens that he and Pedersoli are kind of paired, right? There's like a partnership there.
Okay.
But he does across the board firearms reviews of historical arms that like he finds, procures, purveys, buys, and then loads and shoots. And then he competes at like an international level with historical firearms like this and like other stuff. And then he's a historical reenactor. And so he had a glowing review of the Pedersoli Rocky Mountain Hawkin, and goes into a little bit of the history of the rifle, like the Hawken rifle, and then, shoots it and gives his take and hunts with it. Does a really good job. And so that kind of made up my mind, because everything else was like, I'm not going to say whole hum because I don't want to detract from any of the other builders that are out there, but nothing really hit this level. And so at that point in time, I believe I was pot committed and made the phone call and ordered the gun. It took forever to come in because I don't think they make a ton of them. And I got it, and I was so excited. I ordered up, I think 150 round balls in 3 different diameters. I ordered a ton of patching material, a bunch of different lubricants, and then I ordered a copious amount of Swiss 3F black powder, and then a few hundred percussion caps, and set out to the range for a wild learning experience. And that's kind of
What were a couple of main things that you learned?
These things are absurdly accurate.
Okay.
Range is the antithesis of success. I know it can be done. So the furthest I've accurately fired the gun. Well, okay, let me back up. At 50 yards, if you put a Coca-Cola can on a 2x4, that's a dead can. At 100 yards, if you gave me, well, the plates at Winnequa, the drops at the plinking range.
Yeah.
So they're like 8-inch drops. I can tag those. The 150-yard plate, if there is even a whisper of a breeze, it's over.
Not the slipperiest of projectiles?
Not so much, no. I think
What is the BC on a round ball?
if I remember correctly, it's .090. So it's not great. There are conical options that may work. There's some interesting designs out there that are kind of a round ball, kind of a conical, not really. I don't know. I think it's somewhat diminishing returns. So I think the 150-yard target at that range is probably I'm going to say it's a 12-inch diameter target. If I can recall correctly, it's been a while since I've shot at it. And I think on the first go, I shot at it 10 times, and I think I hit it 6.
Okay.
And there might have been like a 3-mile-an-hour breeze. So
not a lot.
No. Part of that, I think, is my inexperience with the system. It was pretty new. And I never really got better than about 60% on that plate.
Well, and here's what I'd say, though. On the 150,
yeah,
let's also not forget you're shooting pretty coarse open sights at 150 yards.
You'll have to take a gander down those. Those things are surgical. They don't look it, but when you get into it.
It does not look it at all.
When you get into it, that blade is a razor.
May I?
Oh, please. Another thing is like these guns are twisted super slow. So 1 in 66, 1 in 70 is not uncommon. And the gyroscopic stability of a round ball that does not make one full revolution over the length of the 35.5-inch barrel is potentially questionable. Also, aerodynamics of these things is not great. They do swage out, and they kind of get like a kind of an interesting quasi football shape to them when they come flying. But they don't stay coarse necessarily all that wonderful. But it can be done, and I know this because there are similar guns with similar twist rates. Take, for example, Pedersoli's Jager rifle, which is a 66 twist, 54 caliber gun. They shoot those at 200 meters in like a formal competition. So I know it can be done. I just have to get better at doing it. I should be satisfied with a 100-yard option.
I've put the mic back down. Granted, I'm looking at a wall 3 feet away, right? But the sights are. Why does it deceivingly look coarse?
Oh, from not like when you're not in the sight picture?
Yes.
Well, I think, you're looking at that blade, and that blade is not, that I'd have to measure that blade. I'm going to say it's probably, I don't know, probably 75 thousandths of an inch thick, maybe a little bit more than that.
I mean, I can definitely see where, 100 yards,
no problem.
No problem.
None whatsoever. You do have a super long sight radius, so you got about a 30-inch, I'd bet a 30-inch sight radius. And then you've got that real fine notch.
I was going to say, you've got that groove in the buckhorns there.
Yep.
Like, that was,
Yep. So there's also a thing like when you shoot it, lock time. So when we think about that word lock time, if we say it in the context of like a Remington 700, it technically means the same thing. Like the sear has been tripped and the firing mechanism is moving forward, or the ignition mechanism is moving forward. But it's not really a lock. This is a lock. So when I snap that thing, it takes quite a bit longer than the milliseconds that my 700 or my Tikka or my Weatherby or my Howa takes to go from cock to fired. You could feel it in the gun when you shoot it. And so like I drop that, there's a significant amount of mass in that hammer. And then there's a significant amount of spring tension that's also rolling. And like the whole gun torques while you're doing it. Like even before it hits the cap. And then it hits the cap, and then the cap goes, and then the flame's got to go through the flash hole. That's got to then ignite the black powder, which happens very quickly, and then propel the ball down the barrel. It's not moving super fast. Honestly, I've never chronographed this gun.
That'd be interesting to do that.
I should do that. We should shoot these. Definitely should.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to hunt it this winter. I've got some convictions to that. But the whole process, like there's a length of time that occurs between pull and like it's left the barrel. And I think a lot of that's probably where my accuracy is also falling apart. Once I get past 100 is like those little, minuscule details of movement and shift, stack, and then downrange.
I would see that potentially manifesting even more if you're shooting off, like at least when I'm shooting a rifle offhand, you're just kind of, it's floating out there and it's like, okay, squeeze, and you're kind of, at least I, oftentimes just kind of time it a little bit, right? On the bench, you alleviate that essentially. So that lock time to me would be like less critical than if you're like, kind of trying to time it offhand a little bit because it's just not quite breaking when mentally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least I would have a harder time timing it.
You can still feel it though. Like you pull it and the whole thing, whoosh, boom. It's kind of wild. Yeah. And like for the flintlock guys who are still throwing tomatoes because this isn't a muzzleloader, they've got it even worse. So, hammer falls, frizz and struck, pan ignites. They'll get an explosion next to their face. And then an explosion in the barrel. I've shot a flintlock twice. One round went into the dirt. One round, as far as I know, is still going. So,
some say it's still out there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a marvelous gun. Like at 50 yards, I will put and have on multiple occasions, these will touch each other.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how well they shoot. And it's pretty tolerant too. So even, shooting, it's a 54 caliber bore, but you're shooting an undersized ball and you're patching up.
What are you using for a patch?
So I've used a lot of different stuff. I've used like pre-cut cotton, and then you pick your thicknesses. Pillow ticking. I've used canvas, like artist canvas. I picked that one up from a muzzleloader hunter who has taken the North American 29.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with a Hawken.
I can picture that being a good and consistent.
Yep. Most of the time it's a cotton material or a natural fiber like that. And then lubricants, I've used spit patches. It's actually my preference until it gets really cold. Then they kind of freeze, and then that causes some problems. When it gets super cold, I use mink oil. But if you get into kind of the rabbit holes of traditional muzzleloader firing, usage, accuracy, etc., and you start reading like everybody's, give and takes on these, you'll see such a wild variety of patch material, ball diameter, patch thickness, and then lubricants out there. Guys are making lubricants at home out of all sorts of different things, combinations of things. They're using a modern synthetic motor oil or a grease of some kind mixed with something or another. I mean, there's boar butter. I don't really like boar butter.
I was using some of that way back in the day.
I think at the time it was a splash. Like a lot of folks really liked it. Wonder Lube 1000, I think is what it is. That's good. I've used that before. But that mink oil in the cold, I was reading about cold weather hunting and then patch freeze up. Only because it happened to me by accident, because I was on the range with this thing and I'm doing a spit patch and they freeze pretty quick. So, and then it affects your shot to shot. If you get it seated and then it freezes, so like think you go for an hour walking around the woods or sitting or whatever, your consistency is not there from a frozen patch to a not frozen patch, and then just how it interacts with the board. It just didn't work well. So I started looking around, and somebody on one of the forums, I don't remember which, had mentioned mink oil as a really good lubricant for cold weather. And so there's a really cool store called Track of the Wolf. It's not that far from my hometown, and they sell every piece of muzzleloader paraphernalia you could imagine, especially for the classics like this. And lo and behold, they had mink oil. So what I do is I just get some mink oil in this little can, and I scrape it off. And I've got these other cans. It's like a screw top tin that I use them for making candles. Remember when I did that border bear hunt up in northern Minnesota?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was in that unit that you couldn't bait, but you can use a honey burn. I made candles with these little screw top tins that I got off Amazon. And so I melted this mink oil on a pile of these little patches and got it well incorporated and mixed them all around so they had good saturation through there. And then I just screwed the lid on that. And so I've got these pre-lube patches ready to go. I just throw it in my possibles bag and yank it out and go.
And so this is something I've never done. But so, I mean, you're pouring the powder down the barrel, and then you've got the patch with the bullet in the patch, and the patch is, soaked in this oil or, like you said, a spit patch. How is that not compromising the powder charge?
It probably does to a degree. But I think you're
just on the very front edge.
Yeah.
Then?
And we need to remember too with black powder is a wild compound. So black powder is actually really resilient in that, like, it's not like a lot of other chemical propellants that once saturated is completely nullified or diminished completely in tenacity. Like, you can get black powder wet. You can make a mud pie out of it, and you can pack it into like a briquette and let it dry. And then once dried and then reground to whatever consistency you need or F scale that you need, your viability is effectively identical. Like, it doesn't really change.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you look at historical black powder production, they would often end up, or would every time end up with these bricks of the compound, and then it would be crushed and screened into appropriate sizes. So if you're thinking about getting into this, one of the challenges that you're going to run into is which powder granulation size do you run? And so you have FG, double FG, triple FG, 4FG, null B, and then some other stuff. And technically, like, or there's even 1.5 F, 2.5 F. So I was talking to our late great friend Norm, who, believe it or not, had a lot of airtime with traditional muzzleloaders. I'm shocked, right? Because he shot everything. And he had Zouave rifles, he had Hawken rifles, he had BPCRs of varying styles from, like Cape guns to, old African BPE rifles. And he said, don't shoot 2, shoot 3, even though 3 they say is too light for a 54 caliber gun. He says the 3 will meter better and it'll burn cleaner. So what this means is the size of your granulate or the particulate in there. And it's not like it's a different powder. It's the same powder. It starts from the same stock, we'll say, and then through the crushing, grinding, and filtering process or sifting process, you end up with the different sizes. Now, if I take a can of Swiss, which I didn't bring in, and I pour it in my hands, I have Swiss 3F, and you look at it, they're not all the same size. It's not as consistent as like a modern powder. There's some big chunks and there's some very small chunks in there, but it's relatively the same size. If I were to take a can of FG and pour it in my hand, they'd be significantly larger. And I could shoot FG out of this. I could shoot 1.5 F. I could shoot 2F, but I shoot 3. I shoot Swiss because it is really clean, consistent powder. And I mean really clean and consistent. It's pretty wild compared to like some of the other black powder products on the market. It's like many more shots before I need to worry about cleaning.
Nice.
Yeah. And the cleanup is significantly easier too. And
it's just because it's burnt. Is more of it just burning up?
Yeah, and I think the after residue, it's different. Like the soot is different than on Swiss than it is on say Goex. And I know a lot of guys that shoot Goex and like it's the only thing they shoot. And when you start reading on a lot of this, like black powder's challenging to get. It's controlled differently than gunpowder is, or still hazmat, but it's also very volatile. And so a lot of times when you go to order powder online, because we don't have a powder shop, as far as I'm aware in the state, at least within driving distance that would economically make sense for me, that sells Swiss 3F. So when I order it, I usually have to order it like 10 pounds at a time.
Yikes.
Yeah. And so it's very expensive. It's not cheap. And then I have to look at like, well, okay, how often do I consume this stuff? And how often or how long can I keep it viable? So it's got to stay temp and humidity controlled and stable. And I got to keep it in a special container because it's explosive. I mean, like
it's going to take a minute to go through 10 pounds of black powder.
90 grains a shot. It doesn't take as long as you think. I shoot between 70 and 90, depending on what I'm doing.
Okay.
Like if I'm just out there pulling triggers, I've actually shot lower than that. I've shot down, I think, to 45.
Are you measuring those charges by weight or
all volume? Yep, all volume. And I've got a couple of powder horns. I've got one that my Scoutmaster made me out of an American bison.
Nice.
Yep, and it's got a push to flow funnel on it, and that attaches to it a graduated cylinder made of brass. So I put my finger over it and I invert it with the hold, and I give it just a couple of shakes, and then I close it off. And then I've got, what do I have for that thing? I have a 70, 75, and a 90 grain reservoir on it. And then I've got a powder horn that was made in the 1700s. It's been, the end of it had degraded. Like the horn material is still in really good shape. It's all scrim shod. Like the date is a little fuzzy. It could be kind of at or just after American Revolutionary War. It was a gift. Actually, my Possibles bag came from the same guy. And that just has a horn plug in it. Or actually, it's a hardwood plug. I think it's an ironwood plug. And then I can pour that into a similar reservoir. And then I'll do that. Now, when I hunt with it, though, I just charge tubes. So I'm not sitting there slinging the horn,
right,
so to speak. The charge tubes are super convenient, and that's nice. So when I go to the range too, I'll also have a bunch of tubes that are preloaded, just to save time. And so it's pretty nifty.
How long is the barrel on this thing?
35.5 inches.
35.5 inches. And then color case hardened here. Correct. And then what kind of bluing is on the barrel here? What is that finish? Do you know?
It's called browning.
So but it's browning. Okay.
Yeah, it's not traditional. So a traditional browning is actually, it's not a gloss finish like that. Like that's a gloss finish.
Right. And I would say browning is at least or less durable than bluing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also,
but maybe not this variant of it.
Yeah, I'm sure that this is whatever this is, I'm not entirely to be honest, I'm not entirely positive what the application is. It is designed to emulate browning.
It looks like a brown Cerakote.
It does. It's not Cerakote. I know that much. If it was, that'd be cooler. But it's not Cerakote.
A little mix of modern with the
yeah. A brown barrel will be generally kind of rough in texture.
Mm-hmm.
Not like, I don't want to inspire like a burr file, but it has a texture to it. It's a neat process. It is a traditional process. It's, again, like bluing, it's a controlled rust. And it is pretty resilient. If I ever have to redo this barrel, and it's funny, we'll get into this a little bit too. Well, hell, we're here. Everybody grouses about what a pain in the butt it is to clean black powder stuff.
Sure.
And so I was like, there was trepidation. I was nervous that this was going to be a situation. And so I take it out, and I don't know how many shots I fired through it on the first go. A lot. A lot. I was out there most of the day shooting it because it's a riot to shoot. And I'm studying my patches, and I'm trying to like dial in the load and get the sights regulated and all that. And you have to clean the gun sporadically. Like it'll get dirty enough that loading a ball is challenging to potentially impossible, and you don't want it too tight that it gets stuck. And so I'm doing some like in between steps where every 3 or 5 shots I'm running 2 spit patches down on a jag, and I'm pulling them out, and that's kind of cleaning me and getting me serviceable again for another 2-3 shots. And then after a while, it just gets a little caked, and then you got to like brush it and clean it. And then when you're done, you're like, well, black powder's corrosive. Well, this gun's been shot a couple 100 times, and there ain't a stitch of rust on it.
No, it's beautiful.
And
in fact, if you showed it to me as you have,
yeah,
I'm like, have you shot this thing?
Yeah. And so what I learned was, as long as you get up on it when you're done with it, and like I'm packed up for the end of the day, I get to my house. The cleaning regimen is wildly simple. So there's 2 takedown lugs or pins on the barrel here. These pop out. The barrel's hooked into the breech, comes out, and then you have the barrel in one hand. You have the stock and lock in the other. I don't disassemble the lock. I have disassembled the lock just because I wanted to look at what it was doing in there. But when I clean the barrel, the first process that I do is boiling hot water, like out of a tea kettle, and Dawn dish soap.
Okay.
And I think maybe I had to do it twice. So I get this soapy slurry up and running, and just down the barrel she goes.
With like a funnel or something, or?
No, it's the spout pulls it out. And then I put a little plug on top of the, over the flash hole so it doesn't spurt all out.
Okay.
And then let it soak for like a minute.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then I dump about half of it out. And then I go down there with my range rod with a 54 caliber bronze brush on there, and I agitate it, dump the whole thing out. Another flush, let it sit for a minute or 2. Dump half, scrub, boop, and then flush, dump, and then I run patches down the bore, and the patches come out white, like they're sparkly clean.
Interesting.
Yep. And then I oil the bore.
Okay.
Yep. So at that point, then I'm oiling the bore. The rest of the mechanism.
What kind of oil?
G96.
The old G96.
Yeah, which they tell me is not good. I shouldn't be using G96. It's been doing just fine.
Gotcha.
So bore is still mirror bright, and not a crater or pit on it. The lock mechanism, you're going to get some blowback that's going to form up and around here, and you can see where it deposits when you're shooting it. Like this will get all gray and smoky. Mm-hmm. I just have like a kid's toothbrush. They're real soft bristle.
Oh, sure.
Same soapy water, hot soapy water mix, and I just get in there and I clean all that, and then just rinse it off and then oil it, and everything's great. Then I oil the exterior metal parts, and I oil the lock and the tang and the trigger guard, and investigate, has any other powder residue snuck in anywhere else, and you'll end up, you shoot it enough, you'll get that powder residue that'll come up here on the stock, and it'll be underneath the the breech itself. Just wipe it out. It's not that big a deal. I mean, you're cleaning it more than you would your center fire. Sure. But I don't want you to think that it's like this. Well, I shot my muzzleloader once today.
Oh, more than ever then?
Yeah. I shot my muzzleloader once today. I'm going to spend the next 6 hours detailing the thing. Otherwise, it's going to turn to a rust bucket. It really isn't that intense. I mean, it's probably a 20-minute operation to get everything sorted out. And it's, one of the longest times is how long does it take the tea kettle to boil?
I was going to say, it sounds like from a, material standpoint, pretty simple.
Yeah, and if we also look at like the chemical reaction that's occurring when that corrosion starts, you also need a high amount of moisture for like the chemicals to begin to attack and then corrode. So, if it's not kept in a wet basement, everything's okay.
Yeah, I imagine that once you do that, like you said, you run some patches through it and you probably leave it apart for a little, let it air out a little bit before you reassemble it, or?
So the water's really hot, so it dries really quick.
Okay.
Another thing that I use too is 99% isopropyl. That does a really good job.
And when are you using that? Just after the water?
So like I want to get all that water out of there. That 99 ISO displaces it really well. And I've also used 99 ISO on the range too. Where I'll just have a small bottle of it, like a little medical squeeze bottle, and I'll wet a patch with that, and that turns powder residue into an afterthought. I do have to run a dry patch down there because now I've also got an accelerant on top of an accelerant, so I make sure that it's all out of there. But 99 ISO does a really good job, and it dries pretty much instantaneously because of its high percentage, of course. But it's really not that big of a deal to keep them clean. And for the most part, like when you're hunting with them, you're not shooting them that much. No. So it's not a huge imposition. My hunting partner used to do rendezvous.
Cool.
Yeah. And he shot a Lyman Great Plains rifle, and that's another one worth looking at too, because these are pretty expensive. But a GPR is probably $600-700.
Oh, okay.
And they're like,
these are what? They're a couple grand?
I want to say it's about 15.
Okay.
Yeah. The GPR is like a renowned workhorse replica, and it's really popular in both traditional muzzleloader hunting communities and then also rendezvous communities as just like a great staple. Like think of it like a Glock. It just works. And he shot a GPR. I think he shot some other things too. I'd have to ask him if he had any other rigs, but for certain he had a GPR. I said, well, how often would you shoot that thing? And they're not shooting full house charges at a lot of these rendezvous. They're usually shooting, small targets, relatively short distances, some longer stuff, and just shoot it all day. Like you don't really foul out, so to speak. Maybe a patch here and there, but I'm not having to take the thing apart and scrub it.
That's cool.
Yeah, gun stays together and shoot all day.
For some reason, I envision 3 shots, dirty. Okay, let's do the whole thing, almost like what you were saying. So it's cool that if you wanted to bang away with it for a day or a good, a couple hours, maybe a little maintenance here and there, and then of course when you get home, then do the full thing. Yeah, and I asked him when I was getting into this. I said, well, you've hunted with it. He's killed elk with it, and I think a mule deer too. And I said, at the end of the day, like, what do you do? Do you keep the gun loaded or do you shoot it off and then redo it? And he goes, it just depends on the weather. If it's a kind of a clammy, moist day, he's discharging that. He's going to give it a good cleaning, and then he'll load it in the next morning. If not, he's like, yeah, you don't worry about it. You can go a couple days with a charge on there and not lose any viability or volatility out of the charge, and everything will be fine. And it's the more arid the environment, the better that stands. But you got to think about like these, like the mountain men, the trappers, the expeditionary hunters, the guides, etc. Lead and patch and powder was a commodity. You weren't just ripping it off because you're like, that's the end of the day. Better be, yeah.
Yeah. And also might alert, others in the area that would maybe like go at your wares that you're in the area. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I would say myths surrounding their use and to like what level of a pain in the butt it is. I did not find it to be dissuasive. So the biggest heartache that I had with it was dialing in ball diameter and patch thickness for consistency. And the good news is I landed on several that were functional. So whether I was shooting a 530 ball or a 535 ball, I've got a couple of patches for a 535 that shoot identical. And I've got a couple of patches for a 530 that shoot identical. And then, you're just moderating your thickness of patch material to get that right. And then I experimented with it a little bit too. It was like, well, what happens if I put an oversized patch on a 535? Like, is the whole thing done? What I learned is it just becomes a pain to load because it's tight.
It's tight, yeah.
And then when you're using a wooden ramrod, like, it's designed to be used, but it is made of wood.
Right.
So it does have some flex, but you don't want to be gripping the thing way up at the top and then running it down your barrel. Like when I do it, I do it low and I'm moving it like this. So I'm not allowing a ton of flex into that rod. Because if that breaks, it's over. Well, guess who's got a couple of hickory ramrods? When I'm on the range, I use a range rod.
I was going to say, could you substitute with something a little bit more durable, stronger?
Oh yeah, they make fiberglass rods that still look like this. They're very flexy, but they don't break.
Right.
Yeah. So and you're still loading with short pushes
because you don't want that flex. Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of military muskets had steel rods, so you weren't really going to break them. You watch like the Patriot, and these guys are way up at the top of the rod and they're leaning into it. Well, they're also not loading balls in the movie.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they're loading wad and a small charge of black powder to give you a flash and cinematic effect. But they also, some of those would have been equipped with steel rods. So, a little bit of a different story there. But you got to be a little mindful of how much force you can put on a hickory rod and where you can put it. But range rod, when I'm on the range, just shooting, which is great. It's big T handle. It's aluminum. You've used it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And works great. Works fantastic. But yeah, dialing my ball diameter and patch thickness in, that was a concerted effort. The charge weights, what's really neat about it is like the gun doesn't seem to shoot any better or worse whether I go up or down in charge weight. What I get is point of impact discrepancy.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So like the hunting,
and I imagine a little bit of oomph.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, there's definitely a bit more gas behind it on the higher end charges. But if I was going to shoot, between 75 and 90 grains of 3F, at 50, it's not a big difference. There's not a ton of energy difference there either. There's not a ton of velocity difference. When you dip down into the really low, like the practice charge weights, then you're stripping hundreds of feet per second off and you see quite a bit of drop difference. But 90 is what this one really likes with a 530 ball and a 535. But the 90 is a nice charge weight. And it's on the upper end too, so it's a good horsepower load. But it's very pleasant to shoot. There's a fair amount of weight to the gun. The barrel is quite robust.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a gas. It's a toot, man.
It's cool.
It is.
Every time we take a little bit of a step back in time, whether it's, we should do something with our lever guns or our pump guns or, more traditional muzzleloader like this one.
Yeah.
There's just something cool about it that does make me want to do it. And then another year passes and I just did the same regular stuff.
It's funny though, to just talk about like different types. So in quote traditional muzzleloader territory, it's usually lumped into two. It's flintlock or it's percussion.
Mm-hmm.
And then some guys hunt musket ignition. Back where you're from, musket ignition's kind of a big deal. Yeah. So a flintlock gun could look nearly identical. The only difference would be it was using a rock to ignite instead of a, percussion cap. But when you really get down to it, and this statement is for the guys who are like, that's not a muzzleloader. I have a lot of muzzleloaders. I think I'm up to 7. I haven't counted them all in a while. The process is identical. Like whether I'm shooting my Arrowhead smokeless gun, which I've shot to 1,050 yards, or whether I'm shooting this gun that falls off the map at 150 yards, I load them at the same cadence and really with the same everything. Like
Right.
instead of me affixing a percussion cap to a nipple under a hammer, I'm opening a bolt, I'm sliding in a large rifle magnum primer module, closing a bolt, and I'm camming it down. There's actually more steps in my Arrowhead than there is in my Pedersoli. I'm still pouring loose powder down the bore. I used to shoot wads. When I shoot Blackhorn, I shoot wads on my ignition or on my Arrowhead.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a patch. There's still a ball starter involved, and I still have a ramrod.
You're pouring powder down the barrel,
Yeah.
and pushing a bullet on top of it.
Yeah. And so like all of the processes
And priming it in some fashion.
Right. So like I had a smokeless gun before I had this gun. So my evolution in black powder or muzzle loading, I got to be careful because it isn't black powder. But muzzle loading firearms went modern inline to ultra high performance smokeless inline, digression to cap and ball. And the process is identical. Like there's no difference.
Yep.
There's a little bit more precision involved with my modern inlines than my smokeless gun. But like if I wanted to get really serious about black powder, like accuracy and consistency, I'd be measuring my charges as well, like weighing them. And so I would do nothing volumetric and I would do everything by weight. And there are competitive shooters that do that. They do everything by weight, nothing by volume.
Are these less finicky though when it comes to like a charge? Like I think back to even when I was first started muzzleloading. Like
Sure.
I had my my powder horn was out of plastique, and then I had my brass powder measurer,
Yep.
and pour it in there, and sometimes it'd have a little hump on top, sometimes some would sprinkle onto the ground, sometimes a few kernels would go by the wayside when you're pouring it down the barrel,
And especially if it was windy out.
yeah. So like it wasn't exact. And I guess, do you get, okay, here's my question. That was a long way of saying, is black powder a little bit more forgiving, or is it just the same?
I don't know that to a degree that I would make like a definitive statement on it, only because I've never chronoed this gun. So I couldn't tell you. What I will say is like the burn characteristics of the two, like even Blackhorn 209 and black powder, like they're both muzzleloader compliant. I can't run Blackhorn and this just simply won't ignite because we're using a percussion cap to ignite it. I could run black powder in all of my muzzleloaders. I don't because Blackhorn 209 exists. Black powder ignites so quickly. Like, have you ever burned gunpowder?
Yeah, many years ago, I guess.
We need to do this sometime. We need to film this. I don't think we can do it in the podcast studio because we're going to let off a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
But we will do it where we'll take black powder, like a fast burning pistol powder, like a medium burning, we'll say like H4350 or Varget, something kind of in the middle. And then we'll get some like US 869 or some H50 BMG, some super slow Magnum stuff. And when you light them, like you can see the difference. And so like black powder's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Blackhorn 209 is like a quick fizzle. Pistol powder is a slightly slower quick fizzle. And then medium is a medium fizzle, and then slow is a slow. And like when you get to the slow end of the spectrum, it looks like cannon fuse.
Okay.
If you make a line of it, it's like
okay, right,
yeah.
right.
Whereas black powder's like, and that's why you got to be careful with it. And so my assumption is because the burn rate is so fast, those tiny details, like if I threw one charge at 87 grains and another charge at 90, I don't know that I'd have an appreciable difference.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then another neat part about black powder, you'll often read that it's impossible to overcharge the gun.
I don't think I want to test it.
Yeah, not something I'm necessarily going to go out and give a go to, but
Why?
it just won't burn. Like, you'll have the propellant that does turn to a gaseous state begin to propel the propellant patch and ball down the bore before the burn actually can occur, relative to the airspace that we have in there. And so what you end up with is this diminishing return where you start pouring more and more powder down the barrel. You're getting more recoil because we have to put the powder charge weight into the recoil mass equation, but you're not getting more performance necessarily. Or if you are, you're getting just like tiny increments.
Interesting.
I suppose if we had a really long barrel and we could continue that burn while still in the confines of the bore, we'd probably pick up appreciable numbers.
It'd be really interesting to video it with a camera that you could slow down enough to like visually see like, oh, I put this much powder in and this was the result at the muzzle. I put this much powder in and I can tell that a lot of this powder is just escaping unburnt.
Right. It is a cool, unexacting science to it. When you start monkeying with the charge weights and you start monkeying with the powder types, and once you start studying it a little bit and you start listening to people and like what their recipes are and what their go-tos are, more so here than even in metallic cartridge reloading, it seems everybody's got a different opinion. And they find what works. What I noticed in dealings with this gun, and then kind of cross-referencing what other people were saying, is like the individual gun also exhibits a behavior with a given powder charge, powder type. Another thing, like auditing my patches became this interesting exploratory mission where your patch should come out and not look super screwed up. Like it shouldn't be frayed or torn up. You're going to get fringing around like the cut end of the patch just because it's subjected to a lot of pressure and force and fire. But right away, this gun is shredding patches. Like they're coming apart. And I'm worried about it leading in the bore, because am I cutting the patch when I'm pushing it down? Is the patch shredding because there's a burr on the rifling? And so I panicked. I start talking to some experts like, okay, I've got this 54 caliber gun. My patches are coming out and they look like, they've been run through a die grinder.
So you actually can recover the patch after firing. Interesting.
Yeah. Or run through a meat grinder, excuse me. And, like what's going to happen? Because everybody's talking about like, nope, patches are torn. That load's no good. And the guys who are really good at it, like, does it shoot? It's like, yeah, it shoots like a house of fire. Nothing. Like, don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Like, your gun's cutting patches. It happens.
Okay.
It could be a lot of patch material you have. And when you're buying patches, you're not buying them in like 20 at a time. You're buying like a bag of patches. And so, if it got cut off of one ream, well, so be it. So I started chasing gremlins, though, initially. I was burnishing the bore with green Scotch-Brite and JB bore paste, trying to like find a high spot and polish it out, or a sharp spot and polish it out rather. And I'm doing that for an hour and then cleaning it and then doing it again. And, I'm looking at the bore and it's shinier. Eventually you're going to get to a point of too much, right? We're putting abrasive compounds on the bore. We don't want to open it too much. It didn't make any difference. And so I'm like, oh gosh, do I need to chamfer this muzzle? Well, there's nothing on here that's super duper sharp. Like, no, don't worry about it. Some of them cut patches, some of them don't. The higher you go in the charge weight, the more prone you are to that. Although mine was cutting patches down at 45 grains. It's just that bore, that ball, and that patch. The canvas patches don't. The cotton patches do.
I was going to say, did you try a different patch material?
Yeah.
That was...
The only thing I haven't tried is leather, but it's like to get leather that thin or you're going to a really undersized ball.
Right.
So like 530 or 535 is kind of the standard for 54 caliber round balls, and then you patch up, 10 or 5,000s, or maybe you go to like, 13 or 15 thou patch on a 530 if you want a little extra squeeze. But they'll make undersized balls further down the chain from that. Then you can get like a leather patch. You ain't going to tear a leather patch, but I also don't really need to futz with that because the gun shoots famously, with a 530 and a 10 thou patch, or a 535 and a 5 thou or an 8 thou patch. It is all good. Like there's nothing to sweat there. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But that was a kind of a scary moment at the early part of my use with the gun. Percussion caps, I also didn't see much of a difference, if anything at all. They make standard in the Magnum. Most of the experts that I read on or conferred with just said shoot the Magnums. Like you're in a slightly larger charge weight, shoot the Magnums. And so I do. So I shoot number 11 Magnums.
Oh, yeah. I don't think more fire is going to hurt it.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, and then other than that, man, they're just a gas. They're just an absolute gas. I really do need to kill something with it. And so I will this winter. We'll go out. I've got a spot just primo for a white-tailed doe in a muzzleloader setting.
Like stand or slinking around?
Oh, slinking around.
Yeah.
Great.
It just seems like it.
Slickest approach. Food in a field, water in the middle, cover on the edge. It's like I walked back there, was foraging, and it come across like this flat, and then it drops down into this like ravine where this water flows through. And the immediate thing I thought of, I'm going to sit here with my Hawken. like it's perfect. It's like 50 yards across that ravine. It's the only place where deer move in and throughout it.
Oh, yeah.
My further shot max would be 50.
That's awesome.
And I could just think of nothing better to do on a cold, snowy day than to shoot and lose a deer in the smoke after the shot and then go blood trail in the snow. Very romantic. And that was part of the reason too why I got it. And I do, you're talking about like slowing down a little bit, and it is fun, like to go out to the range. And Ruben and I were just talking about this today when he saw it. Like you could load up your Tika magazine, and you could have 20 cartridges expelled if you wanted to in 3 minutes.
Sure.
And then you're done. If I want to shoot 20 shots out of this, that's, you say for cleaning, it probably breaks down about 3 minutes a shot.
And that would be.
Yeah, it's moving.
Yep. Yeah.
And so there, I just wasted an hour. And so it's fun. Like it just keeps you engaged with it. It's a lot more tactile. There's a bit more manipulation to do. And there's 2 triggers, which is neat. One does not fire the gun. One sets the trigger. The other one fires the gun in both the set and unset condition. But it is a gas to shoot. Super cool.
Well, and it's the method, right? You're not doing this because this is more efficient than other options, but there's, like you said, there's a romance to it, and somewhat therapeutic, and you can kind of get to go back in time a little bit yourself and put yourself in the shoes of these mountain men and people that were moving west. And when you think about even all the modern things we have these days, it sure makes you appreciate what those guys did. Oh,
big time. I'll say this, though. It's not more challenging. Like at the end of the day, it's irons, so you don't have a scope.
Right.
But it's still a firearm. And like at 50 yards, it shoots better than a lot of guns I own that have scopes on them. And so it's not really harder.
No, but even from just a rifle care standpoint, you know what I mean?
There's more process.
We go to our cozy house and you clean this on your workbench or what, it didn't have no workbench.
No. Get a stump.
Right.
And a hatchet. And a bunch of chew.
No, this is cool, man.
I dig it. It is a rip. It's fun to shoot. As long and as heavy as it is, it's well balanced, so it's fun to carry as well. And this was an unfortunate year for draws in the West, so I didn't end up with what I would call expendable fun tags. But I really do look forward to taking it west and figuring out how to kill a pronghorn with one or a mule deer.
Oh yeah.
Probably not going to take it on a trophy mule deer hunt. I've got enough points in Wyoming that I better be careful what I wish for, because I'm not burning a half a decade of points on a muzzleloader tag. There are some cool seasons though that I'll say, like Montana's got a traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That is worth pointing out.
This would be a super viable option. I've got something else in mind for that hunt that we'll talk off air.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so you get an opportunity to afford a little bit more fun too, which is nice. And it's neat. You get a cool bag that you carry all your stuff in.
Well, comes with cute bag.
It is a cute bag. It's made out of woodchuck and beaver.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Clay Hayes and I were chatting about this. We did
he's a flinter.
Yeah, we did a flintlock podcast a while back, and just in talking with him on multiple occasions, he does, makes his own self bows and does the flintlock stuff, and very, primitive. And the one thing that he always says, and you know me, I'm not like some crazy trophy hunter. I mean, by and large, I'm trying to get one, right? But he's like, but what if, think about this, like what if every doe that you saw got your heart as jacked up as when you see like a real nice buck that you want to shoot, or, what I would consider a nice buck, right?
And
where every opportunity is an opportunity you're going to go after, and you're getting what you're looking for, but actually at a much higher frequency. Like we look at like, oh man, we sure made it harder on ourselves. Well, yes and no, because you're also gonna get more serious and take advantage of more opportunities that you get. And are you gonna get them all? No, but you're in that heightened state of let's go, let's try and do this.
No, you're absolutely correct. So, and that's really kind of what got me into muzzleloading long ago, was opportunity. So in the firearm season,
Got my first kill of the day.
I saw that.
What was that?
It's a fruit fly. We got a fruit fly situation.
We got a fruit fly situation on our hands.
Yeah. It was opportunity just to hunt with a muzzleloader, because the firearm season in Minnesota is a little bit crazy. It's crazier here. And then just nobody in the woods during the muzzleloader season at all, and it was a different time of year too. In Minnesota, it was way later than it was relative to the firearms opener. So there had been nearly a month that had passed, and the deer had calmed down. And then it was like the first critter that I killed with a muzzleloader was a doe, and man, was I jacked. Holy buckets.
Oh yeah. I shot my first year here. I killed a doe with the muzzleloader. I've probably told this story in the podcast before. I was used to, this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to tie it together. I was used to Nebraska waterfowl seasons that just essentially felt like they went on forever.
Yeah, past Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like every other waterfowl season should be.
Well, exactly. So
give me a November 1st oper.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dear preaching to the choir here. So we have our firearms deer season. I don't think maybe I did get a buck that year. And I was like, oh, sweet, the muzzleloader season's right after. I went in, and the muzzleloader that I had at the time, and actually, I think at the time, Wisconsin was a no scope state. No scope state.
Sure.
So I had my Remington 700.
Yep.
54 cal.
Yeah, I know the gun well.
Got in the tree. Big doe comes by. I think I shot her at 60 yards or something like that. I mean, just poleaxed her. She went down like a ton of bricks. Got her out of the woods. I was like, dude, that was awesome. Yeah. What a way to cap off deer season. And I was like, God, dude, sweet, dude. I'm gonna go hunt ducks. And then I got home. I said, no, that closed last week. Yeah, I guess I missed it.
Ridiculous. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to firearm season too, because it's you and the boys,
Mm-hmm.
But the muzzleloader season, man, it's a different pace. It's the adventure that you make out of it too. So like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to sling that possibles bag, which again, made out of woodchuck and beaver. I'm going to have a small handful of balls in it and a little tin of patches, some small hand tools, and a couple of vials of powder. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to shoot the first deer that I see and be just tickled.
And be excited about it.
Absolutely ecstatic about it.
It does shift your perspective.
Totally does.
And I think it takes your perspective to a really good place,
to a realistic spot. A spot where you should all be.
I think I'm actually getting more and more back there a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, once you know what it is, and this is probably a different conversation for a different podcast, but I was having this conversation with somebody the other day about fulfillment and enjoyment in the field. And I think you look at a guy like Jim Shockey, for instance. Jim Shockey has harvested the world over. And he still figures out how to get the juice. But if you look at what he's been doing now for the past decade, or a little bit more than that, it's now onto the historical part of hunting. You know, where he's got this museum curation of
Sure.
And he's tying all that together, and he's going to these wild places where these peoples that may not even exist anymore were rather hunting, and he's finding the juice there. Like that guy's killed everything there is to kill. I don't know what he doesn't have. I'd have to sit and research it.
I don't think it's much.
No, and it's pretty easy to do. It's pretty easy to get kind of stagnated and do the same thing over and over again. And like, that's why I get and appreciate why, especially out here, like a lot of the guys and gals that work here that bow hunt, like they're picking a deer, one, and they're going bananas over it all year long. I was just talking with Jesse Lenz last week. I go, you got another 190 tied up? He's like, no, not this year. Just a couple good bucks, 140s, 150s, but no 190s.
Yeah, we'll see what comes with him.
I know, right?
In November.
Yeah.
Is this good?
Yeah. And, Jesse's, just all about it. But like, it is easy to get into a mode which you're checking boxes, kind of. And I think anybody who hunts a lot can probably agree with that, is after a while, it becomes a familiar song and a familiar dance. And so you find different ways to spice it up and to keep it interesting. And it rejuvenates it immediately, right? Like I just got off of leg 1 of 3, well now 4 of that bird adventure, and I killed a dusky grouse at 9,000 feet. After I had stalked in on a group of bull elk that I had the wind in my face. I walked right up on them.
That's crazy.
Yep, smelt them before I saw them. I got to probably 40, 45 yards. But like you're doing a thing in a place, and it's bringing a bit of that, fire back, and that's what this is for me.
For sure.
Just got to figure out how to shoot it to like 200,
or maybe 50 yards is just fine.
It's true.
100 yards, definitely. 100 yards.
100 yards
seems like it'd be like, even just looking at those irons right here, as minimally as I did, like I was like, I could see how you could shoot this thing to 100, no problem.
If I can get myself, and I'm just thinking in the context of pronghorn, a 150 go zone that's plenty of airspace.
Yeah.
I've killed a number of them at 100 or less. I killed my best buck at 57 with a rifle. So after going on an archery hunt, and the closest I got to one was 103. So it's again,
doable. Though, if you wanted, if you draw your buck tag, hopefully in that area, you could maybe get a doe tag too. So you go out, do your rifle stuff, get your buck, do a little trophy hunting, and then just go
doeing.
Just go doe hunting.
Yeah.
And be super stoked on it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love shooting does with the rifle too. That doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
That I still think it's fun. I still think it's challenging, but this certainly adds an extra layer.
Tell you what,
might extend your hunt a little bit.
I had pronghorn last night. I really like killing pronghorn.
They're so good.
Yeah, and I think I will. I didn't get a doe tag this year out there, so I did get a buck tag, and next year, who knows?
Right.
Get one out there, or if we can get back into the swing of things with whitetails. We killed most of the whitetails that they had out there, so.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was intentional though. But yeah, it would be neat. Or cow elk, you know. I think that's a thing I can see myself starting to do now on a fairly regular basis.
Sure.
We'll see after this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm 9 days out from a bull elk tag. So, and bison. I think it'd be fun to hunt bison with one of these.
That'd be cool.
It's on the threshold. Yeah, a lot of adventure can live inside of this thing.
Oh, for sure. I think of the bison though with that. I'm like, and that's again, it's like, like it's such a once in a lifetime opportunity. How much do you really want to futz around?
That's why I have 2 tags. One of them, without question, is going to be with a 1885 high wall and 4570. I'd like to kill as many big game animals as I can without having to start taking out a second or third mortgage on my house. With that gun, that gun's pretty cool. So I need a bear, a bison, and an elk, and then I'm pretty chuffed. But yeah, this one is also a contender for the other bison tag I apply for, as is my 405 Winchester, which I've never hunted.
Well, I wish you the best in those draws.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
I feel like you have such high hopes every year.
Every year. And you know, when you start getting to the point where you've got 10, 11 or more points into a tag that you're seeing guys with 4, 5 pulling, you're just like, please, State Game and Fish Agency, remember I have a pulse. That's why I like New Mexico, is because I've applied for New Mexico since 2009, never drawn anything.
That's at least when you apply there, it's like, so you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, like the 20-year mark of applications is on the very imminent event horizon. Nothing. Crickets, man. What do you do?
Meanwhile, you know, some guy's like, oh, I got it again.
My buddy Cody's on his way right now. He's got a Florida Mountains Ibex tag, his third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luck of the draw, as they say. Ryan, thanks so much.
Yeah.
This was a fun one.
Heck yeah.
Super cool muzzleloader. I do hope that you get out with it this fall. And also, if you hit the range with it, give me a call. I'd love to.
Yeah, I need to.
With you.
It's been a couple seasons since I've shot it, and I need to get back out there and just confirm.
Yeah. Well, when you do, call me.
I'll let you know.
All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Did this satisfy your traditional muzzleloader itch? Let us know in the comments below. Are you using one? Do you find it extremely fulfilling? Let us know that as well. Take care. Happy hunting and shooting. We'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.
There you have it, folks. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, give this video a like if you liked it, comment something below, and give us a subscribe to the Vortex Nation podcast channel. It would mean a lot to us. Also, why don't you give us a follow over on Instagram while you're at it, at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'd love to hear from you over there, and we'll keep you updated with all kinds of cool photos and videos from our adventures that we do here. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one. Thank you again. Happy hunting and shooting, everybody. Have a good one.